to a model now. I had a conversation with a friend yesterday, and most people don't like model because model is associated with it being theoretical. I'm sharing with you this model because it encapsulates the entire inner working of an organization. And therefore, if we're going to talk about culture, it is very important for us to understand which gears are driving which other gear or other actions. If you look external environment, what we are saying is external environment affects businesses. In fact, I had a conversation with a friend this week, and suffice to say, he has a friend who was working in a bank, and the friend was asked to be the CEO, but the friend didn't want. And his reason is because if I'm the CEO and the political landscape change, I will be the first to go. So I thought that was an interesting analogy to bring this morning. We need to recognize every organization is affected by their external environment, right? For example, because of COVID, it suddenly made people realize if I'm getting staff to work from home, what is stopping me from engaging a freelancer from India to do analytics work because I pay a fraction of the cost than hiring a Malaysian? Think about that. The whole COVID situation has realized that external environment now is not limited to Malaysia. External environment now is limited to the whole world. You can have access to expertise anywhere in the world because now work from home is being pushed. So as I talk about that, then you suddenly realize organization says, hey, you know what? I will retain some Malaysian because, and I'm being very practical, I will retain some Malaysian because, I want people to say, oh, we hire Malaysian. But there are certain key work I will be outsourcing it to India, to Vietnam, Cambodia, because I can get it cheaper and much faster and better quality. So that is external. Now, when you look at organization, and I mentioned organizations as a strategic lever, we need to ask, what do you mean by strategic lever? If you think of a seesaw, right, you realize if the center, then you need equal weight. If the fulcrum or the middle part of the seesaw is in the center, you realize you need equal weight. But if you shift it to one side, then you realize you can use a smaller weight to balance the other side, right? So this is more technical. Now, you bring that to organization. When we say it's a strategic lever, what we are saying is this action has a greater impact across the organization. That's what we mean by strategic lever. So let's start with the first strategic lever. The first strategic lever is which is the top one. If you look at this, there is the mission, vision, and mission and strategy, leadership and culture. Now, if you look at the arrow shows the interplay between those factors. And you notice culture is a strategic lever. That means it affects the whole organization. So that's level one. The next lever, which is what called a tactical lever. So the tactical lever will be how do you operationalize the strategy? So it talks about structure. Now, structure talks about departments, functions, levels. Those are structure, organizational structure, right? And this is covered a lot more with practitioners doing organizational design. So that's structure. Now, management practices, that means you are talking about setting up KPI, SOPs, and all that's management practices. System would go in terms of your IT system, your HR system, whatever system that you have to get work done. So this is what you call your tactical lever, right? And the reason of this tactical lever, it is about how do you produce work. And the final one, which is what we call operational lever, which is more focused on the individual staff and the personnel. And you notice it is this operational lever that really talks about employees' performance. So you need to look this model from a top-down benefit, which means if you are going to make changes at the strategic level, then you need to be aware that it's going to affect the tactical level and it's going to affect the operational level. Now, if you are making a change at the tactical level, then you only need to make changes at the operational level. This is how you look from this model and how it gives a roadmap, a diagnostic tool to talk about culture change. And that's where you start to realize you don't always need to do culture change for everything, right? So this is the big picture of it. If you are interested, it's a Burke Litwin model. If you are interested, once again, drop me a note. I will send you a YouTube video of the person, he's still alive, sharing this particular model, right? So what happens in this? Just now, Chasman talked about leadership. You look culture and leadership, the leaders is very, very critical in driving the culture. Now you look at the structure. Structure talk about department. Now, HR is the department. The problem is I noticed this in a lot of organizations. HR tends to be seen as the person in charge of culture. Wrong. HR is a structure. So it doesn't drive the culture. The leadership drives the culture in the organization. Now, this is important to know because at the end of the day, remember, one of the characteristics of a high-performing workforce is a motivated workforce. If you look, work unit climate, which means how do people feel when they come to the workplace? Do they feel that the workplace is toxic, or do they feel that the workplace is embracing of change? Now, that will actually motivate or demotivate the staff to work. So whenever people say, I want a high-performance culture, you cannot run away from looking at the operational level. And if you look at that, there's this thing called individual needs and values and skills and jobs. In the yesteryear's generation where our needs are basic, people just need food on the table. The individual needs easy. I have money, I have money, I can buy food, I put on table, we eat, happy, next day I go to work. In today's generation, people are no more about food. It's about what type of food I want to eat. Should I use Grab to order or not? That's one. Secondly, there's this thing about values. Are we aligned? Do I feel the organization respects my values, right? So that goes in terms of what Dr. Farid talks just now in terms of how do you bring about Western culture and Asian culture together? All this will create the performance, right? Okay, so I'm
Mr.
going
Isaac, can we take a question from the
Sure.
audience?
Sure.
Yeah, from Ronnie Ng, I observed the Intan ADO. I'm not sure what is this Intan ADO. And what is that short form for something? I'm not sure.
This one Intan is the Malaysian, the Intan.
Yeah, training center, but
yes.
ADO is what? I'm not sure. And MNC management trainee culture seems to be consistently aligned with organization. Is it due to selection or training?
It's a combination. So selection. So this is where we talk about hiring practices. Right now, I'm focusing on behavior. I'm not focusing on thinking. Right. So if you look at behavior, because the Malaysian culture is very much top down, the Intan training and this are, I think with military and all, it's very top down driven. So you look at high performance organization. Actually, the military is a high performance organization, and the people who comes in will stay. Those who cannot will get out. Right. So part of the benefit of culture is what we call culture fit. People who adhere to the culture, who says, I can take this culture, they will stay. Those who cannot take will usually move out, right? So when he says to align with the organization, now, alignment can be done two ways. Either by no choice, which means a person say, because I'm grateful, I'm joining this organization, I will stay on. That also creates alignment, but doesn't create satisfaction. Or another way of alignment of, hey, I like this company. The company's value and my values are aligned. I want to stay on. So they are more motivated. So alignment from a behavioral perspective looks the same. The question is, are people aligned? Are they motivated or demotivated by staying aligned? That's where. So when you say selection and training, it's a combination because who you bring in is important, right? That's one. Secondly, you can train people. But question is this, the challenge with training is this, the training has to be culturally relevant. For example, if your organization is about quality, that means risk, minimize risk, and there you are teaching people that innovation need to take risk. Now, that training is not aligned to the culture. If the culture is about not making mistakes, then sending them for a training that talks about experimenting and be open to making mistakes is not aligned. So that kind of training will not work. But if you have a training that's aligned to the culture, then it works.